Why are so many people stopping drinking, but at the same time, why do so many people struggle to actually stop? What's going on here? See, imagine it like this. Imagine a very close friend of yours was coming to your area. They give you a phone call, they're like, yeah, I'm going to stay in a hotel just down the road from you. And you said, oh no, come and stay with us, we've got a spare bedroom. The friend comes over, all is good. And over the next few days, you start to notice things in your house keep disappearing, but they're very small items. First, you notice that a dust cap from your car is gone. Then you notice that one fork from your cutlery set has disappeared. And then over the next few days, bigger things start going. You notice a card missing. Then your keyboard goes. And then a few days later, the wheel of your car has disappeared. And you go to your friend's room, you open the door, and there it all is. And you're like, whoa, wait a minute. What are you doing? You literally see the alloy wheel on the bed, the keyboard. You're like, hey? I thought I trusted you. I thought you were my friend. And you tell that friend, get out of my house, never come back. Here's the weird thing. Most people open their fridge, open their cupboard, go to their garage, and there's something there that they think is a friend, but it is doing the exact same thing. Alcohol steals from you. It is stealing your health. It is stealing your confidence, it is stealing your energy, it is stealing who you could be. See, we would have no problem confronting somebody, a human, that was stealing from us. Yet, there is something in our house right now that is taking and taking and taking. And the thing is more and more people are stepping up, they're being courageous, and they're facing the issue. My name's Leon Sylvester, I'm the founder of SoberClear.com. We're a coaching company that helps business owners and professionals control their drinking within as little as 48 hours. But this video is not about me, this video is about you. And some of the most intellectual and influential minds on the planet today are all talking about stopping drinking. If you want information on coaching, just go to SoberClear.com, but now let's hear from some of them.
And to this day, I've never had a drink, and I have no longing for it. I have no interest in it. To this day, I've never had a cigarette. This was an idea that I had, where if we can teach young people not to take drugs, just not to take them. When I see friends of mine that are having difficulty with not having that drink at dinner, where it's literally almost impossible for them to stop, I say to myself, I can't even understand it. Why would that be difficult? The fact is, if we can teach young people and people generally not to start, it's really, really easy not to take them.
If you don't drink, you don't miss it. I mean, I don't even think about alcohol or
right. It's not a part of your world.
I don't think about cigarettes. Yeah. I don't think about any of that. If you don't take drugs or if you don't have alcohol, it's real easy not to drink it.
Well, I don't want to get too right wing about the whole thing, but I think ultimately it's somewhat of a moral dilemma. Even though a lot of programs and approaches say, no, don't say that. It's just, I'm certain there's a spiritual aspect to it, but I think largely it's kind of like you have a reasonable amount of control about what you do, what you put in your mouth with your hands, type stuff. I think ultimately you just have to, and I think getting a little older helps too.
At a young age, I realized that I had a very weak mind.
Yeah.
A very weak mind, and I want nothing to interfere with my own thought process.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people before they go on stage, they get a little bit tipsy, get a little buzz, maybe smoke a little something, do a little something.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that every single thing I feel is real.
Got it.
I want no masking.
Yeah.
I want nothing to mask my ability to feel fear, to overcome fear, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that people who drink and do these different things are trying to hide. Some people just do it. For me, I think of it as almost like a masking agent, so then your mind doesn't have to work as hard. And that means I'm losing.
Bro, there's a world out here that is limitless, that things you can do, things you can learn, things you can, have the potential of embracing and succeeding in, on all these different levels, and it's all out there waiting. But that drinking, which it always came back down to the drinking. But drinking, you spend just like I said, you spend the whole day recovering, essentially.
Right.
So I went and I committed to 30 days. And I set these goals. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to get a 6-pack. I'm going to make this amount of money. I'm going to do this. And I did it. And then I'm like, wow, I like the high of being productive better.
Right.
It saved me 6-7 hours a week, just because when you get a drink, you want that extra drink, you stay longer at the bar.
Right.
Then it takes you a couple hours to get started the next day. So I said, what if I don't do it? And just my business went like that. And then I went another 40 days without drinking. And then my life just started getting much, much, much better. And
then by the time I'd done 6 months sober, I really started feeling the benefits. I started sleeping better. I was handling stressful situations better. My relationship was better. My relationship with my family was better. My relationship with my work was better. And I just sort of said to myself, let's do a year. Let's get through the first year, and then that would be a wonderful achievement. And then by the time I'd crossed that annual mark, I was done. I was like, I'm never going to drink again, because this is the best version of myself.
Every time I had done something or said something that I regretted, it was when I was drinking. And I thought at one point, maybe I don't want to live a life where I'm continually or even sporadically wishing that I hadn't said or done something. No, and I'm very much unlikely to do that if I'm sober and clear-headed.
And we've been brainwashed by alcohol industries to believe that quitting is really hard. It's part of their propaganda. They're the ones pushing that message, which seems like, why would they tell people it's hard? But they're doing that because if it's hard, you won't quit.
If we had to make a bad drug legal, the worst choice was alcohol. It's definitely the case.
You know what's amazing to me is how the people who make alcohol get a free ride. I don't know how it got it in our heads to treat one like it's completely taboo, and the other we kind of shrug. I mean, it's crazy. Right? It's like, this is the drug that is causing so many problems for young people, particularly on campuses. Sure. And the schools are hand in glove with the manufacturers of it.
Because it's socially acceptable.
Alcohol is a poison. You guys know that. It actively poisons you. And at high concentration poisons you a lot, and that fucks up your recovery at a basic biochemical level.
I think most people don't realize that being drunk is actually a poison-induced disruption in the way that your neural circuits work. Ethanol produces substantial damage to cells. And it does that because when you ingest ethanol, it's broken down into acetaldehyde. And if you thought ethanol was bad, acetaldehyde is particularly bad. Acetaldehyde is poison. It will kill cells. It damages and kills cells, and it is indiscriminate as to which cells it damages and kills.
Alcohol is often used as a sleep aid, but alcohol is quite different in that regard. Alcohol is trying to essentially knock out your cortex.
People confuse sedation, consciousness, and sleep. And I love to tell the glib anecdote, right? Which is like, if I hit you over the head with a baseball bat, you would lie motionless for 12 hours. But of course, there's no confusion over the fact that you are not sleeping, and nothing about that experience is good for your brain or your body in terms of rest and recovery. So yes, alcohol is very sedating, but it doesn't promote sleep in the way that we know sleep works in terms of its stages and its functionality in terms of healing.
There is no safe dose of alcohol because alcohol affects the development of synapses of the brain. People who drink at an early age heavily have been shown to have significantly smaller brains and reduced cognitive ability.
50% of murders take place in an alcohol-fueled environment. Either the victim or the perpetrator or both is drunk. It's almost the sole cause of domestic abuse. It's almost the sole cause of so-called date rape. If you dig into criminal behavior deeply enough, well, hell, you don't have to dig much at all before you find alcohol. It's also the only drug we know that actually makes people more aggressive.
It is one of the most destructive drugs to various parts of your body and different organ systems. From the top down, chronic alcohol dependence can have significant effects on cognitive functioning, memory, motor coordination, all of which is controlled up in the brain. You can have esophageal problems down into the stomach, pancreas, the liver, because the liver is the organ that kind of clears a lot of the toxic things out of our body. When that starts shutting down, it not only is not able to really process alcohol and its toxic byproducts well, but there are other things that it just starts losing functioning.
I should mention that alcohol is actually considered a class 1 carcinogen or cancer-causing agent by the World Health Organization. So that's the same category as benzene and tobacco smoke. And some studies estimate that a drink of alcohol has about the same cancer-causing potential as 1 to 2 cigarettes, depending on your sex.
So it goes into every nook and cranny in the brain, and there it has lots of influences. So it slows down the excitatory signals, it speeds up the inhibitory signals.
There's a slight suppression in the activity of neurons in the prefrontal cortex. This is an area of your neocortex that's involved in thinking and planning, perhaps above all in suppression of impulsive behavior. And as you shut down the prefrontal cortex, that GABAergic suppression of impulses starts to be released. So people will say things that they want to say without so much forethought about what they're saying. Or they might do things that they want to do without really thinking it through quite as much, or they might not even remember thinking it through at all.
In fact, if you eliminated alcohol, you'd eliminate most interpersonal violence. You probably couldn't have made a worse drug legal. I mean, about 10% of people become addicted to it in one way or another.
Really?
And far more people than that abuse it. Yes, at least once in their life, yes.
Areas of the brain that are involved in flexible behavior, sort of considering different options, like I could do A or I could do B. Those brain areas basically shut down.
Probably the most common detriment that alcohol has to the brain is the fact that alcohol is a depressant to the central nervous system. So it impairs your judgment, it impairs your reflexes, and your ability to think through.
And top-down inhibition is diminished. That is, habitual behavior and impulsive behavior starts to increase. This is true in the short term, so after people have 1 or 2, maybe 3 or 4 drinks. But it's also true that the more often that people drink, there are changes in the very circuits that underlie habitual and impulsive behavior.
You know, you might say, well, why do people drink too much? It's like, if you like alcohol, that's a stupid question.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, why do people drink too much? Well, because it's great. Yeah. You know, it's like, okay, so why stop? Well, you do stupid things when you're drunk. You hurt yourself. You compromise your health. It's really hard on the people around you. You tend to turn into a liar, and it screws up your life.
And what we need to do is stop looking for it. Stop looking for that dopamine hit and essentially try to find a way of being in the world that isn't primarily focused on rewards, but instead, fosters a different meaning and purpose for being. And you hit on it exactly. I mean, people can get this in different ways, but finding a sense of purpose in the world, or a reason for living. Typically, this is living for others. That can really make us feel like it's all worth it without necessarily making us feel that we're experiencing pleasure, but really almost more that we can endure the pain of being alive, because being alive is actually pretty painful, and that it's worth it. It's worth sticking around for, because we want to be here to accomplish some greater goal, or we believe that we have some meaning and purpose in life. So we're wired to constantly seek out pleasure and avoid pain, but I'm hopeful that it's not the end of us, although the data would suggest it just might be. 70% of global deaths are attributable to modifiable risk factors, that is to say smoking, diet, and lack of exercise. So if we don't rapidly turn around the way that we're constantly consuming, then we're probably going to go extinct. We're going to sort of titillate ourselves to death.
But people don't know, it wasn't like I started fighting and stopped drinking. I spent 4 years training and drinking. I became a professional Brazilian champion. I was a professional Brazilian kickboxing champion while drinking. So it's not like, people will say, I tried to do it like Alex, so I'll never make it because I joined the gym and couldn't stop. It was 4 years there in the struggle, But before I started training, I wanted to find the way, to stop, right? And then I already tried, I stayed a month without drinking, right? Then I would go back. But not during the fight, that was why.
That's right.
So I stayed a month, but then I said, well, I will try. I'm gonna drink. Then I drank. And soon enough, they drank a lot again. And I say, I'm gonna stop. I think now I can do it. Then I would stay 2 months, then do it again. It just never ends. So then I went back again in those 6 months, and I suffered some losses, even during the fights, and it affected me. And I said, man, if I want to succeed, if I want to feel good, to have a better quality of life, it's now or never. So I went and I said, I promised myself that I would stop. And it's been, 9 years now that I haven't drunk anything at all. Sometimes I go to eat something and then there it is, some flambéed thing, I don't know, with cocoa liqueur, and I just don't take it, I don't even take it, but it's not out of fear. I'm not afraid of starting to drink again. It's just something I don't want.
Mount by hand.
Sometimes I see people drinking, and I look and think, wow, how can they? I just don't see myself drinking anymore because I'm doing well, man. It's only brought me good things, When I used to drink, I was happy in that moment, But now I'm happy all the time. I'm joyful all the time,
All right.
And I don't need to drink. Why? Because I know where I want to go, and I know where I'm going to get, you see? So you need to have a direction. You can't just walk around aimlessly. You understand? You have to say, I'm going to go from here and reach there, you see? Then you'll succeed.
It was my priority. As a matter of fact, I don't think I would have quit drinking had it not been for being a dad. You see, what happened to me was alcohol was becoming a love, and it was beginning to crowd out my affections for the most important love, if you're a dad, and that's loving your little girls. And so fatherhood meant sobriety from 1986 on.
A lot of my bad decisions were when I was in that fuzzy kind of haze, and that it got progressively worse. That got progressively worse to the degree where it was, trying to hide it and trying to hide how much. And I was kind of a functioning kind of drunk. I think you could probably say that. And I was functioning. I was still training most days. Crazily enough, I was training to kind of mask it and cover it, and that was probably my savior. In the end, there was an incident, and me and a Belgian coach, we got absolutely hammered. But we were at the wrong place, and he got noticed. And I looked down at these guys, and half of them were people I didn't want to be in that situation with. They're not people that I respected, and they're not people that I trusted. So I said, if you're going to sack me, but I'll promise you now that I will just, this is it, I'll stop. I'm just going to stop. I've decided. On the way back in the car, I rang Nikki up, my wife, and I said, whatever you hear now, whatever, I'm just going to stop. So that was it. Stopped.
You just saw the moment and said, stop.
Stop.
And I just think of the financial implications of drinking. It's ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous.
Yes, it is.
Because when I was on the SEAL teams, we spent a lot of money on alcohol. A lot of money on alcohol. If I would have saved that money, invested that money, bought something, house, whatever, it would have been just a totally different scenario.
Yeah.
I mean, it was no factor to spend $400 or $500 a night in the 90s.
Yeah.
How much time did I spend drinking and did we spend drinking when we could have been getting better at guitar? Could have been, learning how to do a skill that would be more valuable.
Once I found something that I loved and something to live for, which was martial arts and MMA and fighting, when I found that, it saved my life, man. That was what made me want to wake up in the morning, right? Before, wake up in the morning didn't mean shit to me. It's like, okay, well, what do I do? Go work this stupid fucking job or go drink or, you know what I mean? Because that was really why I was doing all the drinking and partying and stuff. It wasn't that's who I am. It was just a matter of well, what do I fucking do? Do I go drink or do I go to this stupid factory job? And I just found a new obsession, a positive one, something that, every single day, even now, I wake up and I think about fighting and I'm still obsessed over it. You know what I mean? I still, it still gets me up. It still gets me motivated. Still, I feel very bad for the people, and there's a lot of them out there that never find something that they love that much. Most people are just living their day to day, man, and living for the weekend or just getting through the day. Their 9 to 5. Just fuck, man. What a miserable life, man. You only live once, bro. You gotta fucking go for it, man. Absolutely. And if you don't find that something that you love that much, then you're wasting it.
I didn't give myself a shot, but the people around me believed in me, and the people that don't have access to the recovery that I had access to, that's who I fight for, to show them that it's possible, that recovery is possible, that sobriety is possible, and that you can achieve incredible things one day at a time without a drink or drug.
In Western cultures, alcohol is the most harmful drug overall because it's the most harmful drug to society, because it's the most widely used drug.
Yeah, and alcohol also makes people aggressive. It's the only drug we know that actually makes people aggressive. So you see a massive effect on crime rates because half the people who murder someone are drunk.
Oh, yeah.
And half the people who are murdered are drunk.
No family in Britain, if you look at an extended family, 3 generations, in which doesn't have someone who's been damaged by alcohol through addiction, through violence, traffic accidents, or being a victim because of someone else who was drunk and violent. Almost every family in Britain is affected, but we don't own up to it, right? We kind of push it under the carpet. You know, we know there's a problem, but we don't talk about it because, well, we don't know what to do about it. We're embarrassed. People are fearful of other drugs, illegal drugs, because it helps deflect their attention away from the problems of alcohol. Politicians love to get hysterical about a new drug because it means they can do something about drugs and don't have to be held to account over their failure to deal with the problems of alcohol.
Because alcohol is sort of this very generic drug, it's the most widely acting substance I know of. It acts on proteins in every body system, not just the brain, but on the kidneys, on the liver, you name it, it acts there. And so it's a pharmacological hand grenade because it indiscriminately can alter the function of proteins in cells everywhere in your body. Alcohol causes depression, it causes the opposite. It doesn't relieve anxiety, it causes anxiety if the main thing in your internal or external world is a negative thing. Alcohol will exaggerate that context.
And this is where alcohol is a really clever drug. Alcohol is a very promiscuous drug. It gets into the brain and it changes all the good neurotransmitters that you want to change. You know, a bit of endorphins, a bit of serotonin, a bit of GABA. You know, it's a really clever drug. And gradually it sort of worms its way into you. So eventually it kind of takes over and you get to the situation like, you know, that you described. And, you know, I've had patients of mine who say they just find themselves drinking. They don't even intend to drink. They're just suddenly there drinking. They don't know how they got there. They don't want to do it. They don't even enjoy it very much, but they can't stop. It becomes a compulsion.
Binge drinking definitely kills brain cells. It alters neural communication in such a way that it can change the structure and the function of the brain for a long term. Anytime you binge drink, you're going to alter the brain, probably permanently. The plasticity can help it recover, but the more you do this, the less likely you are to be able to sort of overcome those perturbations.
If alcohol wasn't a thing, and I've invented this drink that is gonna make you either really happy or really aggressive or really stupid, and we're gonna just sell it to the masses, people would be like, nah mate, keep your funky juice, like we don't want that, that sounds terrible. And it's one of those things, because it is so socially acceptable, the addiction side of it, the bad sides of it, really do fly under the radar. There is a lot of pressure on young people, not to drink necessarily, but to find happiness through going out and getting mashed. But if it doesn't work for you, and if you keep waking up going, I don't seem to be having nearly as good time as most of my friends, then think about it. It doesn't have to be something you do, is all I'd say to people.
And I drank quite a lot till I was 27, and then I found that I couldn't. Well, first of all, my life was taking a pretty professional turn, and second, I found that there was no bloody way I could write seriously and think seriously on an ongoing basis if I was hungover. So, and I got married and I was going to have kids, and I thought, enough of this. And so, I've watched too, as I've gone around the world, I've met very, very many people in many, many social occasions. And because I don't drink anything at all now, if I go out and watch people drinking, it makes everybody stupid and fuzzy-minded. And, the problem is when you're drinking, you think you're cool, but, you have those same delusions that Homer Simpson's friend Barney had when he was drinking, that you're this kind of, elegant and sophisticated comedian, and it just makes everybody stupid.
Because it's too easy to jump on that wagon of it's a disease and my brain's been hijacked and I no longer have a choice in the matter. I think there's that element for sure, but past a certain point, you have to stand up inside yourself and change, Everybody does with any issue. Ultimately, anything else is just a really, new age excuse, if you ask me.
Open the mind, meaning to stop, to realize whenever you are in a way limiting your views, for example, limiting your own perspective. And by regularly practicing, every day we take care that we are opening and stay with the open mind. This openness after time is something that we are then starting to incorporate into our being, into our daily life. And this is what opens then the doors again. The more open you become, the more you will see once again the possibilities that are out there. And if you by yourself cannot create that light, then we have to somehow try that the circumstances on the outside help you, support you a little bit along this way. And the same goes for the question, if somebody finds himself in that place of darkness, either you find a way that you can find some light in there and then make it shine brighter from day to day. Or you need support.
If you're starting to put your life together and you have friends that object, those are not friends. Those are just people you know. They're not friends, because if you're trying to get your life together and your friends get in the way, that's actually real useful for you, because you've now identified who your friends aren't. And you might think, well, I can't give them up. It's like, oh yes, you can. And not only can you should, and it would be better for them. Because if they're aiming down and they want you going down with them, there's nothing good about what's happening to them, and there's certainly nothing good about that for you. And then esteemable people do esteemable things. It's like, yeah, well, you want to figure out something that you're doing with your life that's worth not getting drunk and screwing up.
That's exactly what happened to me in Prince George. It was exactly that conversation with myself. And initially I decided 6 months off, and I just never went back to it.
Like, there were times I was like, man, I could never be a sober person because I'm afraid of, I can't communicate with women, or I'm afraid to, stand around in a circle with tough guys without having like a beer in my hand, or like all these little crutches, I can't. And then I remember when I got like 90 days sober, I was just like, holy shit, man. Like, it was like the first time I'd ever done something like for myself, And it just, man, it felt unprecedented.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Better. Oh, are you kidding? I would never be sitting here with you. No way, no chance.
Because?
Because I wouldn't have been able to have access to myself or other people, or even been able to take in other people if I hadn't changed my life. No way. And I never would have been able to have relationships that I do. I never would have been able to take care of my father the way I did when he was sick. So many things.
And if you don't do this, you're probably going to die early, by the way. I realized I had to just rip off the Band-Aid and do the hard thing. And once I went through that process, my life improved across the board.
You can only change your life if you want to change it. And I got back home, I didn't say anything to the wife, I just went straight upstairs into a dark room. And I was sat there, and I got on my knees and I was praying and begging God to help me. After praying for about 10 minutes, I got up and I felt the weight of the world was lifted off my shoulders. And for the first time in years, I knew I was going to make a comeback.
How long have you been sober now?
15 years. Friggin' saved my life, saved our family, and working through that stuff. So very grateful for my wife. She's the one that didn't ask for this shit. She walked through fire with me, and we walked out together stronger, way stronger than we ever would have been before.
I don't want to, at this point, to be running from anything. I want to sit in it. I want to feel it. I want to get through the rough night. And I found in doing so, you come out the other side with a more profound understanding of yourself, a greater gratefulness for those in your life, the birds and the trees and everything else.
I haven't took drugs in 6 days, and for me, that's a miracle. I've been lying to everybody else and think I was sober, but I'm not. This is my 6th day. I'm never going to use again.
And I was like, I'm not giving up my fun. Yeah. And I could never imagine, so when I get married, I'm not going to have a drink. So when I have a kid, I'm not going to have a whiskey. Guess what? Yes, I didn't have any of that, and it's awesome.
It was the best thing I ever did. Enabled me to have a solid marriage and kids and a career, and I didn't end up a crazy actor.
Waking up 100% of the time, because there are a lot of challenges, again, that you wake up when we're being asked to be this active and this on and this focused, and we're going to be making these big changes we want to see. I don't want to wake up feeling groggy. I want to wake up feeling ready.
My relationships with my friends, my family, everybody around me are so good and have been for so many years now. I wouldn't do anything to destroy that again.
And then it is that thing where it's just, your life just changed and people are nice to you finally when no one's been nice to you. You've lived in a world like the drinking world and the kind of druggy world that I was in. Just everybody's miserable and they're all mean to each other constantly. You're just nasty all the time. And then you go to a meeting and people are like, hey man, it's so confusingly wonderful.
I don't miss it generally, now at all. I the sort of chaos I used to invite into my life. I'm really much happier now.
I never look back. A whole new world opened up to me. People report better sleep, better sex, regulated weight. They report clearer skin. People report that their anxiety dissipates. Many people say they find a sense of purpose. They find that suddenly they can take on new challenges. They can start a new career. They can form a charity. They can write the book they always wanted to write.
People think a life of sobriety is sacrificing the fun, but it really isn't. You just have to be bold enough to take that step to try it. And once you get across the line, you're like, wow.
2 days or a week into not drinking, you'll feel different. It'll make a physical difference. And you'll like that physical difference. Mm-hmm. And I think about anybody who kind of, is down all the time is to find the cause of what's pushing you down, you know what I mean? And try and attack that. Because it's never, somebody once said to me, they said, whatever you got, we've got something special. I mean, we have a great life, and I've had a great competition record, it could have been better, but it was great. There's people out there that would live in your house at the drop of a hat, wherever you are. They drive your car, no matter what car it is. Some people haven't got a car, and whatever food you're having and you're moaning about food, right? There's somebody out there that would take that and gladly eat that. All right. So there's always somebody worse off than you. And I think that we tend to sometimes, look at the things that we haven't got rather than the things we have got.
Yeah, it's a skill probably to be grateful for the things you have, exactly as you said. And this sometimes the little things like food and
you do stupid things when you're drunk. You hurt yourself. You compromise your health. It's really hard on the people around you. You tend to turn into a liar, and it screws up your life.
Yeah,
you need something better than that. And what's better isn't being straight and not making mistakes. It's like that's all prohibition in some sense. What's better is, no, you need an adventure, man. You need to get out there and have something to do.
Yeah.
And something worth waking up for. And that's the substitute for the addiction.